Welcome everyone to the Quantum Thread, weaving the future of the internet, your weekly dive into the amazing world of science and technology. Today we're embarking on a journey that literally spans centuries, from the shimmering artistry of medieval cathedrals to the bleeding edge of quantum computing. We're talking about plasmonics, and it's truly a game changer. I'm Susan, and with me today are my brilliant co-hosts, Paul and Rachel.
Thanks, Susan. It's great to be here. Plasmonics really is one of those fields that feels like science fiction, yet it's been around, in some form, for a very long time, even if we didn't always call it that. It's a testament to how observation often precedes understanding.
Absolutely, Paul. And what's wild is how relevant those ancient observations are to the cutting-edge stuff we're doing now, especially when we start thinking about AI and quantum technologies. It's like the universe had this secret, and we're just now really figuring out how to harness it.
That's such a perfect way to put it, Rachel. So let's start at the beginning, or maybe even before the beginning of its scientific understanding. Paul, you mentioned medieval cathedrals. How do these ancient structures connect to something as modern as plasmonics?
It's truly fascinating, isn't it? If you've ever stood inside a Gothic cathedral like Chartres or Sainte-Chapelle, you're just awestruck by the vibrant, almost glowing colors of the stained glass. The reds, the blues, they seem to pulse with an inner light. What medieval artisans didn't know but effectively utilized was plasmonics. They were incorporating tiny nanoparticles of gold and silver into the glass, literally, gold dust and silver dust, which when exposed to light created these incredible, rich hues.
So it was essentially accidental plasmonics, right? They had the technique, but not the theoretical framework to explain why it worked. That's a giant leap historically.
Exactly. They were, in a way, alchemists, experimenting and refining their techniques over centuries. Fast forward to the mid-19th century and we get closer to a scientific understanding thanks to Michael Faraday. He wasn't looking at cathedral glass, but he was experimenting with colloidal gold, tiny gold particles suspended in a liquid. He famously created a ruby red solution and observed how light interacted with these minuscule particles. He noted that the color wasn't from the gold itself, but from how light was scattered and absorbed by these nanoparticles. He was essentially describing the optical properties of what we now call plasmonic nanoparticles long before the term plasmon even existed.
That's incredible. So we have the artisans, then Faraday making these crucial observations. When did the actual term plasmonics come into play, and what exactly does it mean? What are the foundations we need to understand?
The term plasmon itself was coined much later, in the 1950s, by physicists David Pines and David Bohm. They used it to describe the collective oscillation of electrons in a metal. Imagine all the free electrons in a metal wiggling together, like a wave. It's a quantum of this collective excitation, if you will.
And the plasmonics part really came into its own when we started looking at surface plasmons. This is where light meets metal in a very special way. When light hits the surface of certain metals, gold, silver, aluminum for example, it can excite those collective electron oscillations, but specifically at the interface between the metal and a dielectric material like air or glass. These excitations are called surface plasmon polaritons, SPPs.
Surface plasmon polaritons. That's a mouthful. Can you break down what makes these SPPs so special? Why are they different from just regular light waves?
Great question. The key difference, and what makes them revolutionary, is their ability to confine light to incredibly tiny dimensions far smaller than the wavelength of light itself. Regular light waves have a diffraction limit, meaning you can't focus them down smaller than roughly half their wavelength. But SPPs, because they're coupled to the electrons in the metal, can bypass this limit. They can squeeze light into nanoscale volumes, enabling us to interact with matter at a level previously impossible with conventional optics. Think of it like this. Light normally spreads out like ripples in a pond. SPPs are like those ripples, but they're tightly bound to the surface of a leaf floating on the pond, guiding them along. This tight confinement opens up a whole new world of applications.
That analogy helps immensely. So let's talk applications. Where are we seeing plasmonics making a real impact today, beyond just pretty stained glass?
Oh, the list is growing exponentially. One of the biggest areas is sensing. Because SPPs are so incredibly sensitive to changes in their immediate environment, like if a molecule attaches to the metal surface, they're perfect for highly sensitive detection. We're talking about surface plasmon resonance or SPR sensors that can detect minute quantities of chemicals, pollutants, or even biological molecules like proteins and DNA. This is huge for medical diagnostics, drug discovery, and environmental monitoring. Imagine detecting a disease marker in a blood sample with incredible speed and accuracy.
And it's not just about detection. In solar energy, Plasmonics is helping us make solar cells more efficient. By embedding plasmonic nanoparticles into solar panels, they can trap more light, scattering it around inside the cell for longer, which means more photons are absorbed and converted into electricity. It's about getting every last drop of energy out of the sun.
That's fantastic for renewable energy. What about in terms of computing or data storage? We're always looking for faster and smaller devices.
Absolutely. That's where things get really exciting for future tech. Plasmonics offers a pathway to ultra-compact optical components. We can create waveguides that guide light in nanoscale circuits, replacing slower electronic pathways with light-speed optical ones. This could lead to much faster data transfer within chips and between devices, and potentially denser data storage. Imagine hard drives that store vastly more information in a smaller space, accessed at the speed of light.
And it's not just passive components. There's also research into metamaterials using Plasmonics, engineered materials with properties not found in nature, like negative refractive index. This could lead to things like perfect lenses or even invisibility cloaks, though those are still very much in the research phase.
Invisibility cloaks? Now you've really got my attention. But going back to something a bit more immediate, what about medical treatments? Any plasmonic breakthroughs there?
Definitely. One area that's shown incredible promise is targeted drug delivery and photothermal therapy. Researchers are using gold nanoparticles, those same ones from Faraday's experiments, coated with specific antibodies. These nanoparticles can seek out and attach themselves to cancer cells. Then by shining a laser on them, the nanoparticles absorb the light, heat up, and destroy the cancer cells, leaving healthy tissue largely unharmed. It's a much more localized and less invasive treatment than traditional chemotherapy.
It's truly a beautiful illustration of how understanding light-matter interaction at the nanoscale can have such profound life-saving implications. From something as simple as coloring glass to fighting cancer, the journey of this science is quite humbling.
That's an amazing spectrum of applications. Now, Rachel, you hinted at quantum technologies earlier. How does plasmonics tie into the quantum world? We hear a lot about quantum computing, but where does plasmonics fit in?
This is where it gets super exciting. Welcome to quantum plasmonics. Traditionally, plasmonics dealt with classical physics, but as we push the limits of miniaturization and precision, we inevitably encounter quantum phenomena. Quantum plasmonics explores what happens when plasmons interact with light and matter at the quantum level, where individual photons and electrons play a role.
So we're talking about things like single photon emitters, entanglement, and really controlling light-matter interactions on an almost atomic scale?
Exactly. Imagine using plasmonic waveguides to guide single photons for quantum communication, or using plasmonic nanostructures to enhance the emission of light from quantum dots, making them more efficient for quantum computing or sensing. It's about creating quantum devices that are incredibly small and efficient, leveraging the light-confining power of plasmons to interact with quantum states.
That sounds incredibly complex and promising. And building on that, what about recent advances and the future? I've heard the phrase illumination to intelligence thrown around. What does that mean in the context of plasmonics and AI?
This is truly the grand vision, and it's a concept beautifully illuminated by thinkers like Sean Brem. Illumination to intelligence refers to the idea of using light, specifically plasmonics, to power and revolutionize artificial intelligence. Traditional AI, whether it's deep learning or neural networks, relies on electronics, which consume a lot of energy and generate heat. Plasmonics offers a pathway to optical computing.
So instead of electrons moving through wires, we're talking about photons and plasmons doing the heavy lifting, processing information with light?
Precisely. Imagine neural networks where the connections and computations are performed by light signals, guided by plasmonic circuits. This isn't just about faster processing, it's about radically more energy-efficient computing. We could have AI systems that perform complex tasks with a fraction of the power consumption of today's electronic counterparts. This is crucial for things like edge AI, self-driving cars, and micro data centers.
That's a huge leap. So we're talking about plasmonic AI, essentially. How close are we to seeing this become a reality?
It's still an active area of research, but we're seeing incredible progress. Recent advances include things like active plasmonics, where we can dynamically control the plasmonic response, turning devices on and off or changing their properties with external stimuli. This is essential for reconfigurable optical circuits. There are also efforts in plasmon-driven catalysis, using plasmons to enhance chemical reactions, which could lead to more efficient industrial processes.
And don't forget plasmon-enhanced spectroscopy. It's making our analytical tools even more precise, allowing us to identify and characterize molecules with unprecedented detail. which feeds back into everything from drug discovery to environmental science.
So, from ancient artisans to quantum AI, plasmonics seems to be a foundational technology that just keeps giving. It's truly a story of humanity gradually peeling back the layers of light and matter interaction. What's the biggest takeaway you want our listeners to remember about plasmonics?
For me, it's that observation, even accidental, can lead to profound understanding. The colors in those cathedrals were a clue, a whisper from the universe about this incredible interaction. And now we're finally learning to speak its language.
And my takeaway would be its power to converge different fields. Plasmonics isn't just optics. It's materials science, electronics, quantum physics, and now, crucially, artificial intelligence. It's a bridge to a future where intelligence is literally illuminated, offering solutions to some of our biggest technological challenges.
Paul, Rachel, thank you both so much for shedding light on such a complex yet captivating topic. It's truly a field where the ancient and the futuristic dance together. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey from cathedral glass to quantum intelligence. We hope you've enjoyed our exploration into the eternal dance of light that is plasmonics. Join us next time on the Quantum Thread.